Well, it's been a couple of days to take in and reflect what happened to the Riders on Saturday night in Calgary. Riders lose 32-15, but it was how they lost, which triggered a severe emotional reaction in Rider Nation. Yesterday on the show, and it was no surprise, it was Overreaction Monday. Lot of things, small things got blown up into big things. That's what Overreaction Monday is all about. Rider fans melting down, that lost. Were we complacent? Did we think that coming in 8-1 guaranteed us 9-1 because of who we think we are this year? This Rider team doesn't come across as complacent, neither does the coaching staff, but there was kind of that air about us. The Stamps just seemed hungrier. They wanted it more. That game meant something to them, and maybe not so much for us. And I don't know why. On the very first play of the game, Dave Dickinson was 20 yards out on the field throwing a challenge flag on the opening kickoff. When's the last time you saw a coach throw the challenge flag on the opening kickoff? Dave was dialed and angry early. He's always angry, but he was dialed and angry early. I think for a lot of us, it was like, well, if we have to lose this one, that's okay. I think that's 100% wrong. You're winning. Keep the roll. Keep it going. Stack those wins because you're going to need them come the end of the season. Last week, I talked about how this game is probably more important than the Bomber games coming up. Why? Because the Bombers have already lost the season series to the Stamps. Stamps won all 3 games. And now the Stamps have the season series with us. They've won both games. And if it comes down to a tie, and we've been in this position before, you don't own the season series, points are going to matter. It's the Stampeders. And as we get into the stretch run, the standings always tighten up. They just do. We're going to dive into that, a whole bunch more. And if you were tired of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, well, it's not a good day for you. Because now, if the knob on that Travis and Taylor thing was at 10, like Spinal Tap, we're turning it to 11. You are not going to be able to escape those two anytime soon. Travis and Taylor got engaged. Photos are out. Well, we won't throw the photos up yet. Photos are out, but it's all over social media. You can't get any politics in there. There's nothing. Everything is Travis and Taylor, no matter what channel you go to. It's all over. Oof. A lot going on over these next 3 hours. It's the Tuesday edition of the SportsCage. Maz in for Barney. Talking sports, weddings. Travis, did you hear in the news, Trump? Good luck. If you're listening on 620 CKRM, we appreciate it. If you've got us on the 620 CKRM app, thank you. If you don't have the app downloaded yet on your mobile device, Apple or Android store, it's free. Sign up for the notifications. You can live stream the SportsCage on our social channels, on X at SportsCage, and on our YouTube channel. Just go to sportscage.com. And the show today is for Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Text line was blowing up yesterday because everybody had to get their 2 cents in on the Riders and Stamps. Prairie Land Rentals text line is open 306-936-6262. Have you calmed down a little? Aaron's saying tough loss for Gang Green, but they can't win it and don't score in the second half. They'll learn under Mace. We're going to see those Stamps again. On the show today, in about a half hour's time, Charleston Hughes is going to join us. CFL legend. It was an uncomfortable meeting for myself in the press box with Charleston's old boss. I'll explain. Tight situation he put us both in. Arash Madani's coming up after 4 with Coast to Coast. Glen Suitor with press coverage. Plus, we're going to hear from Rider fans from the postgame show on the weekend with their thoughts. There's some good calls. Some rational and some irrational. And we love that. Hey, don't forget about today's SportsCage poll. Who's the best team in the CFL West Division right now? Riders, Stamps, Bombers, Lions, Elks. You can vote now by going to sportscage.com. And hey, don't forget, when you're there, sign up for the Insider newsletter. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline and bring in the voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Dave Thomas. It's been 3 days since the game in Calgary. You've had a little time away, time to examine, maybe go over the stats, rewatch the game. Where do you come out on what happened on Saturday at McMahon Stadium?
You know, I think that the Calgary Stampeders made an adjustment that was something that the Saskatchewan Roughriders maybe didn't anticipate at halftime, because when you're shut out, and again, going back to the comment, and again, very apropos, if you don't score any points in the second half, it's tough to win any game. But the Roughriders secondary got banged up in that game in Calgary, and the fact that you lost both Nelson Lacombo and Marcus Sales. Marcus before the kickoff even happened, and then Nelson, of course, in that first half. And then you start substituting Kerfala Exume, and I think the Stamps did a masterful job of detecting where those adjustments had been made by the Riders' defense, and you could start to see some receivers break free and break into the clear a little bit. The Rough Riders' four-man pressure just wasn't getting home right away. I know Coach Mace said in the post-game show about the defense and how the defense needed to be better, but I think the offense as well, you know, the one blown coverage that we've seen over and over and over again the last couple of days was that miscommunication on the right side of the offensive line where you never, ever would have expected it between Jacob Bramer and, of course, Jamarcus Hardrick. But, you know, saying that, maybe it was just one of those games, right? Let's face it, Calgary was buzzing. There was all kinds of atmosphere in that stadium. So wasn't the outcome you wanted, but I think that now the measure of the team is going to be the bounce back, right? Like, are we going to bounce forward? Are we going to bounce back? And I'm curious to see how this team comes out in front of what will be an electric stadium on Sunday with the Riders and Bombers for Labor Day Classic number 60.
A good football team beat a good football team on Saturday. The Stamps executed. There was those 3 or 4 plays, and it's cliche, but there's 3 or 4 plays in every game that will determine the outcome. And those 3 or 4 plays went the Stamps' way. But as we chatted on the show yesterday, it started early in the first quarter with an uncharacteristic Keyshawn Johnson drop or a miss in the end zone, which would have put him up 7. But then we go for the field goal. Lothar misses. And if you're Brett Lothar, someone messaged me after the show yesterday saying, listen, because of the score and the way that the game was, the Lothar situation didn't get the spotlight. There was a lot of other things going on, but he's like, can you not ignore that on the show tomorrow if you are going to bring it up? Yeah, it doesn't help when from, what was it, 28 yards, Dave, was that initial field goal? And he missed. And then you could just tell that the Stamps got a little bit of life from that. And it seems like the Riders deflated a little from that.
No, you're right. And so to start with what you were commenting on, the Keyshawn Johnson play, I've seen it a number of times. And, you know, I don't think it was a Keyshawn drop by any means. Again, it was just the ball may or may not have touched his extended fingertips as he was trying to make the catch in the back of the end zone. Trevor Harris was a little off balance when he made the throw. And again, that's the game of inches that is football. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Yeah, if the Riders scored there, that's a big opportunity for them very early in the football game. And then, yes, a couple of play later, then you have Brett Lothar come out and miss the field goal. And I don't think there's anybody more torn up about it than Brett himself. And the fact that, you know, he readily admits, right? What was the quote? I'm the worst player in the league. It's pretty hard to overcome that when the confidence level is at that point with Brett Lothar. And we're going to wait and see.
There's a bunch of players on the Ottawa Red Blacks that are probably like, hey, Brett, hold my beer just a second. Let me go out there and show you. No. You're far from that. There's a whole bunch of us here that are really should be on that list. Dickinson talked about it in the post game yesterday, and we played the clip. Something about they created a 5-man front that was a new twist or wrinkle apparently from the last time they played at Mosaic Stadium or whatever, and they were able to get pressure. But didn't you think that the Stamps, it started with them containing the Riders' run game? AJ Ouellette was getting some yards, but it was a hard 3 and 4 yards, and there was no breakaway long runs. Like every inch was being earned on both sides of the ball in both run games.
No, you're right. And I think that was one of the things that stood out to me is that Dietrich Mills was later in the game able to go ahead and find some running seams and really allow the Stampeders to move the football and chew some clock and demoralize the Saskatchewan Roughriders. For AJ Ouellette, again, not for a lack of try or effort. Again,
no, not at all.
6-7 yards he was getting, and the Riders did, I thought, really intriguing things to get him outside the tackle, inside the tackle, running into the A gap, running again different spots through the line to try different things. Even again, if you're watching the YouTube stream, you see AJ Ouellette taking a screen pass, right? So the Riders did a lot of creative and innovative things to try to let their playmaker get the football and move with it. Unfortunately for the Riders, it just didn't match what Dietrich Mills was able to do on behalf of the Calgary Stampeders. And I think that's part of the thing too, is that the Stampeders were able to identify where some of those pressure points were coming from. And unlike teams that we've seen recently in Montreal and BC and Edmonton, for example, Vernon Adams Jr. did a great job of deciphering where that pressure may or may not be come from, and then using his escape valve to go ahead and get rid of the football and move and advance the football consistently, which, again, you got to tip your hat sometimes.
We all know with the zone that the Riders play, they will give up some yards in the secondary, but it's bend, don't break. But it seemed on Saturday, and VA's stats, it's funny, Dave, after the game, you looked at the stats, VA was 14 of 21 for 222 yards. It's not like he blew the doors off. Neither did Trevor. I mean, they made just enough, but it seemed like when VA needed a pass somewhere in the zone, their receivers were in the exact right spot between the linebackers and the secondary, and they were able to get chunk yards when they really needed it most. And a lot of it was on second down to convert and keep the sticks moving.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't to the usual suspects, right? Because both Dominique Grimes was missing in action. Of course, he was out with the game, Tevin Jones as well. So you don't have those two. And I was looking at it, I'm like, well, where is he going to go? Because if I'm the Riders, I'm going to cancel Jalen Philpott and I'm going to take away Clark Barnes. And the Riders did both of those things, but it was the other guys that kind of came in underneath. And that was the difference in a lot of different ways. And you're right. Like, they were chunk plays at times that Calgary was able to get. And Vernon Adams, boy, did he look confident, but he looked patient, because there's times where he'd run around, right? Yeah. Looking around, waiting for something to happen. But this time he kept his eyes downfield. And in my humble assessment, I just thought that, he looked like he was in command of what was going to happen. And the Riders just couldn't disrupt him enough without sending pressure in their four-man front. So again, the team talked about how much they learned the first time they played against Calgary. I'm sure they're going to talk about the second time they played against Calgary and how much they'll learn from that video.
Riders were hit with injuries. Nelson Lacombo goes out, and he was in a walking boot by the end of the game, which shifted things there. Jackson Ford, who was coming in to play at safety, if you haven't played the position in a while, it takes a little time to get in there. I thought by the time the second half rolled around, like he looked a little more comfortable, but you can't fault him at all because he's playing out of position essentially because he hasn't played there all year. And they did that. And the Stamps did have a great game plan. I'm thinking even if, and not that injuries are excuses, with the game plan that the Stamps came in with, it almost seemed like by the time the fourth quarter rolled around that the Riders have had their way with pretty much everybody this year, except the Stampeders. Like, everything they did was working. And it just seemed like at any time, okay, especially near the end of the second quarter, when we got the touchdown and Trevor started going, I'm like, okay, Trevor Harris, here's the magic. We're on a roll. All right, this is it. Floodgates are going to open come the second half, and then halftime adjustments, and then nothing. When's the last time the Riders got shut out in the second half of a game? I was trying to think of it. Even when they haven't had great teams, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It's before 2024. I can tell you that. And yeah, it's remarkable in the way that the offense was rolling in that second quarter that it didn't carry over to the third. But again, Calgary's ability to get home and be physical up front, I think, is what set that tone and what disrupted that rhythm. So I'm very much looking forward to a conversation with Trevor Harris when the team returns to practice tomorrow, just to hear what he saw. Again, because he does have such great vision of the field and understand what's going on. But it was very, very quickly that Calgary was able to get to him. And again, you don't have a lot of time when the guy is averaging, 2.7 seconds before the ball leaves his fingertips. So I'm really, really intrigued as to what Trevor Harris might say on that front.
As we get ready for Labor Day on Saturday, Darian mentioned this yesterday, that he thinks the Stamps, it's their table to run now, because the Bombers, if it comes to a soft split, it's not like the Stamps have an easy schedule, but the Stamps, with the win on Saturday, their record against teams above 500 is 7-0. Their crazy losses against Ottawa, and one of them VA didn't play, the other one was a monsoon, so maybe throw that out the window. But the Stamps are beating the good teams or the playoff teams above them. And it's not like the Riders, you can only play who the schedule says you play. So there isn't that. The Stamps are beating the competition that technically could be ahead of them in the standings or they may face in the playoffs. The Riders, not so much. But as we look ahead to this Winnipeg situation this weekend, they're kind of trending in the right direction. They've won with some character. They're winning with injuries. They're doing just enough. And Dave, we talked about it last week. The Brady Oliveira show got running last week, and it's got running early. And then the tapping of the helmet started, and I'm like, oh, because what did Oliveira finish with last week in that game? Was it about 130-ish yards? And I'm like, uh-oh, that's the one guy who I didn't want to see start rolling downhill.
No, and you're right with Winnipeg, and I equate it to, you have to learn how to win, right? And I know that sounds ridiculous, but you do have to learn how to win, and that's one of the lessons that the Riders, even though they are a veteran team and again have continuity in roster year over year, you have to learn how to win those big pressure-packed games, and that's something that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have displayed that they're able to do over the last little bit. Now, they've got a ton of adversity coming in. You mentioned Jackson Ford, of course, the day before his 25th birthday, had a lot of playing time and looks like he may get more. He hasn't played a lot in the last 2 years due to injury. And again, the injury bug just kind of nipped him, but I'm curious to see what a full week of practice might look for him. But for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in their receiving corps, for example, Kyron Moore, former Saskatchewan Roughrider, has been signed because they're just beaten up. Nick Dembski and Jareth Stearns both left last week's game. Both were on the field at practice. Neither were full participants in the Bombers' day one of preparation today. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Brady Oliveira just seems to, again, that's why he's the most outstanding player, right? He plays big time in big time games. So that will be interesting. But then the secondary for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers has been a little beaten up this year, and they are again, by the looks of it, coming into Labor Day. So you look at it and there's a piece of you saying, boy, this team is just ripe for the taking right now. And, if the Riders can go ahead and get a big win on Labor Day and even find a way to win 2 in a row, then they really set themselves up nicely. That's great. But also there's the converse, right? Where all of a sudden, if you go ahead and you drop 2, you and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are tied, right, at 8-4. So it's 2 big weeks, but I'm with you. Like, this is such an intriguing matchup, and you look like the Bombers might be down, and there's a lot of people that have said, oh, they're down and out, they're too old and whatever, and then Willie Jefferson starts knocking balls down 5 at a time, right? So intriguing matchup for sure.
I think all the pressure is on the Riders over these next couple of games. They have to win. The Bombers don't, because nobody's expecting anything. Well, you're 6-4. Nothing. Everybody. And I think, now I don't know who, but there were a lot of people before the season, remember Dave said that Trey Ford was going to be the next thing since sliced bread as far as a quarterback being a Canadian in this league. And that was one of the things. And one of the other headlines that a lot of the smart people that comment on the CFL or write about it or have podcasts or blogs, that the Calgary Stampeders were going to be incredibly bad this year. I think it's safe to say that Dave Dickinson had other plans, and I think it's safe to say that they're legit. Now, if they go on and drop the next 8 games and end up 11-7, I'm a fool, but I don't think that that's going to happen. I can officially say I think the Stamps are not going to end up in 5th place in the West Division in the CFL.
No, I would highly doubt that. That would be a huge drop-off. But again, you're one hit away from your entire season changing seemingly in the Canadian Football League. And let's face it, with P.J. Walker and Vernon Adams Jr., the 2 quarterbacks for the Stampeders, there's a world of difference in experience alone. And do I have faith that Dave Dickinson and his crew can coach up P.J. Walker? Absolutely. But I don't know that they can get to the level that Vernon Adams Jr. is at, having said that. So that one but I think that coming up against Edmonton this weekend and the resurgence of Cody Fajardo, this is the matchup that really, this is going to be an eye opener, because let's go back to Cody Fajardo's first start at Mosaic Stadium a couple of weeks ago, right, against the Riders. Saskatchewan puts up 8 sacks. Despite that, a valiant effort from Cody to go ahead and rally the team to get them back into striking distance in the fourth quarter in a game that probably should have been well out of reach by then. But I was speaking with someone that I greatly respected scout and respected eyes in the Canadian Football League. And the one thing that the comment was is that, remember when Cody Fajardo was in Saskatchewan, and remember how many sacks were allowed by the Saskatchewan Roughrider offensive line? There's 2 pieces to that, and that's Cody, and that's also, your quarterback, and your offensive line. So he comes in first game, gets sacked 8 times. The good news is, though, is that, Cody Fajardo is now a Grey Cup winning quarterback, and he understands, I think, a lot more of that, and having to find the hot routes and not having to rely on that little backspin in the backfield to get away from everyone. So that's what intrigues me. Calgary Stampeders, their defensive line, they got home last week. Can they do it against the Edmonton Elks and a team that has a real tough offensive line that has been battling hard this year? And can Cody Fajardo counteract that? That's exactly what you're going to see Labor Day in Calgary between the Elks and Stampeders.
All right, what do you think is going to happen Sunday at Mosaic? Time to play SaskTel Pick the Score. Text us your first and last name along with your score prediction to 306-936-6262. You could win tickets to an upcoming Rider game and a chance at a $200 SaskTel gift card. It's time to take a break. When we come back, CFL legend, he's got, I think he has 265 sacks now. If we check his Wikipedia, Charleston Hughes is going to join the show. We got to ask him about this Will Johnson comment that Nick Lewis made a couple weeks ago about being the best D lineman in the CFL. There's a lot to talk about with Charleston Hughes. That's coming up next on the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 620 CKRM. Fishing in Cabo San Lucas. That's the new early bird prize with the Rider Foundation 50/50 this week. It's a flight to Cabo for you and your significant others. 7 nights at Dreams, Los Cabos Suites, all inclusive, and a private half-day fishing trip in Cabo San Lucas. Or you could take $7,200 cash. Entry deadline is 5 o'clock this Friday. You can buy your tickets online at riders5050.ca. Thanks for being part of the Sports Cage on this Tuesday afternoon. We're talking Rider football, and let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline and bring in, he's our favorite guest on the show, and we've said this many, many times. But Charleston, I think you and I need to have a serious conversation. Because on Saturday, I was put in an uncomfortable situation at McMahon Stadium. I am in the elevator waiting to go up to the press box. I want to say hi to Dave and Luke. And guess who walks on? Your old boss, the guy who has the best tan in the Canadian Football League, John Huffnickel. And it's a good thing Huff doesn't know who I am. Okay, and he doesn't know that you and I go on the radio and that you said they're going to be the worst team in the CFL West Division this year. And I'm like, yeah, let's go, Charles. Yeah, and all this. So quite right. He's like, how's it going? I'm like, oh, it's going good. And I'm just, keep in mind, he has no idea who I am, but I'm feeling bad. And then I saw after the game, Huff, his wife, a group of friends, they're high-fiving. It's smiles all around. Ooh, all was good in Huff's world on Saturday night.
Yeah, but why were you feeling bad? You said that you got to hold strong. You gotta stand on business, man. You gotta stand on business.
Should I have told him, Huff, these 7 wins, it's a fluke. You're a mirage. You're not making the playoffs. I'll phone Charleston Hughes right now. We'll get him on FaceTime.
No, man. They're playing good right now, man. And there's no ifs, ands, buts about it, man. Every time VA's out there on the field and that team, they're playing on a whole nother level. They're dominating, on all phases of the game. It's amazing to watch them play and watch, how well he's just orchestrating the offense. I mean, I guess him are just clicking like no other, because I've never seen a quarterback just play this good besides Bo Levi under that system. I mean, it's awesome to see.
Dave Dickinson on the opening kickoff threw his challenge flag and was 20 yards out on the field and was angry and mad 6 seconds into the game. I knew we were in trouble because he was dialed up and everybody was fired up. on that Stamps roster. What did you think? Defensively, they played a great game, didn't they?
Yeah, man, that defense is playing lights out, just like the offense is playing lights out, man. Kudos to that defensive coordinator. I don't know much about him, but man, he's calling some plays over there, and it's the front is playing outstanding. I don't know if I can name one person on their defensive line, but they're all playing excellent right now. So if you don't know them, you need to find out about them for sure.
That was it, 4-lane. I don't want to mispronounce it. Or Remalade. He was an unstoppable force, and because he was attracting at times double teams, it was freeing up spots for the others or whatever. And it's not like the Riders didn't have like a good football team beat a good football team, but it seemed like they made Trevor Harris look very pedestrian, and he hasn't all year. Trevor's had the magic, the quick release and all that, and for whatever they were doing, even with the quick release, Trevor he just couldn't get the ball off. And you've been in those games before where you start to disrupt it. And if you can, and they got to him early. And Charleston, if you can get to somebody early, does that play in late? Like, always got to be thinking they could be right there within a step or two?
Man, when you're playing against somebody like Trevor Harris, and that's why I said kudos to the defensive coordinator, because he's calling some great plays. He's putting players in position to win games. They're playing championship style football, to be honest. I think what really, really frustrated Trevor Harris is they took away his first read. When you go into a game and you take away a quarterback's first read when he's more of a rhythm style quarterback, he likes to get the ball out on time, likes to get the ball to the receiver on time on shorter passes, and you take away that first read, it's hard on a quarterback like that likes to throw in rhythm all the time. Makes him hold the football more, makes him have to think a little bit more, a little bit hesitant about throwing that ball on the fly. So the thing is like, man, like I said, that defense is playing very, very well right now.
You would have liked the atmosphere at McMahon, because when you played there, the stands used to be full, and the stands were, I think there was 27,000. So that's kind of a sellout now, because they tarp off some areas. There was a good amount of Rider fans. There was a good amount of Stance fans. It was a great night for football. Sunny, 24, no wind. It was great. I thought the Riders, near the end of the second quarter there, they marched down the field. They scored the touchdown. They take the lead 15-14. Here's the momentum. Riders are coming back. But then, and explain to us, because the Riders scored no points in the second half. I don't know if the Stamps made a halftime adjustment. What happens at halftime in the locker room, Charleston? Do you guys sit around a whiteboard? Does the coach talk to everybody individually? Like, what happens in there? It's only 16 or 18 minutes long.
It's only a short amount of time that you got to go review film, look back at the mistakes you made, make the adjustments that you need to make the adjustments in every single, group. And after you make those adjustments in every single, position group, you got to try to come together as a team and try to, rally everybody together and, get the spirit up coming out of halftime, try to win the momentum back, try to win, the football back, and really, push guys to really give their all and figure out what they need to do to help participate to win in the game.
Because I know when the Riders went up at halftime, I know we were all standing in line at halftime, getting beer, something to eat. Vibes were high, Rider fans, high-fiving, people in jerseys, like, all right, we got it. All right, you had us for like 23 minutes, but we're rolling now. And they came out. Big play VA's stats weren't great. 14 for 21, 222 yards, 3 TDs, but 2 picks. Not his best game statistically, but it just seemed like in that zone, the Stamps receivers were always in the right spot. Deep over the linebackers, but not deep enough to be in the secondary to get big yards. And you know that, Charleston. Zone has its advantages, but it seems like the Stamps played that zone to a disadvantage to the Riders to a T.
Yeah, man, but it might not be big plays, but those are still first downs. And when you getting first downs like that, still a big play. You're still moving the chains. You're still getting positive yardage. and it's still positive things that are happening in the game. So although, the stats really don't show, how well he played, I think he made the right plays in the game when it counted.
You were a longtime Stampeder. You were also a Saskatchewan Roughrider. I didn't check the stats, but just go with me. What's better to win, a Labor Day Classic in a Stampeder uniform or a Labor Day Classic in a Saskatchewan Roughrider uniform?
Ooh, I don't know. I think that I would say, you know what? It depends on whether you're home or away. I know you play one home and away, but it's about the off game. Because if you win the off game, then that's the one that really matters. So the Labor Day Classic, yeah, you play one at home and one away, but then there's always an off game that you play against the same team, and then you win the tiebreaker of the group. So it's all about winning the tiebreaker.
All right. So was it a more of a party atmosphere in Calgary when you guys won the Labor Day Classic, or was it better in Regina when you guys won and beat the Bombers? Like, what was a better party?
I'm gonna have to say Calgary, man. It was better in Calgary when you win, man. I enjoyed it more in Calgary when we won because I was there with my team in a longer period of time. So I came in with a bunch of guys like Brandon Smith. Shout out to Brandon Smith. It was his birthday last week. I forgot to call him. But, but
shout out Brandon Smith. Nice.
Yeah. Keon Raymond. Henry Burris, Bo Levi, Drew Tate. All the receivers and running backs and John Cornish, the legend. I played with so many, Mike Labenjo. I experienced so many different, Labor Day Classics with those guys. And we all remember the wins. And that's, I think, what was the most memorable about that.
Speaking of one of your old teammates, receiver, Nick Lewis on the show a couple of weeks ago, and then near the end of the interview, he dropped something about Will Johnson being the best defensive end in the CFL or best Stampeder. I'm like, oh no, now we're just starting fights to start fights for clicks and likes on social media. Can you explain? Was this a long-running thing with you, Nick, and Will Johnson? I'm like, I totally forgot Will Johnson. He doesn't exist in the Charleston Hughes universe, but you're like, yeah, he was pretty good as well.
You ask Will Johnson himself, and he will tell you who is the best pass rusher to ever come across that field in McMahon Stadium. He will tell you. And you should have talked to Huff about, because the only reason I didn't break the record from him is because of Huff.
Why?
He didn't let me get one more sack on the Stampeder roster.
Oh, man.
All I needed was one sack. I tied him at 99. All I needed was one sack.
Man, well, if you would have got a few more hurries, he probably could have turned that into a sack, but we don't count those. So Will Johnson and Charleston Hughes, the most prolific sack guys in Stampeder history. With Labor Day coming up this week, you got the Bombers. Inconsistent, yes, but they've won the past couple of games. They're playing a little better. Running game's going. Willie Jefferson is wreaking havoc. Zach Caleros is kind of getting back. He's getting a little groove. He's probably going to be in Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's wedding party, I would think. Bombers, Riders on Sunday, the bounce back game for the Riders. Charleston, think all the pressure is on Saskatchewan to win, because the Bombers, well, they're old. They're not playing well. There's no pressure on them.
Yeah, there's no pressure, but one thing that I know is for sure is a losing team is a dangerous team, because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what side of the spectrum you're going to get on a team like that. So for Saskatchewan to lose a game like that with a really, really good team, I think it kind of keeps them in check as the best team in the league, and it makes them have to respect teams, and you got to play your best game all the time. So you can intend on the Riders probably coming off on top, winning by like 13 points.
Is it sometimes good to lose, like you had said, to kind of get your head right again or whatever? Maybe you stay off social media, stop reading your press clippings. Losing can teach you everything you need to win.
Yeah, sometimes losing ain't a bad thing. So when you're going 8-1 like that, losing really keeps you in check and it keeps you honest. Makes you have to not get relaxed. Makes you have to really play your best ball game because a team like Calgary, you're going to have to face them again when it comes to the playoff time.
Yeah. Toronto at Hamilton, you're going to, man, Toronto, head scratcher. They score 52 points last week, but they're the best 3-8 football team in the CFL, I think. If they beat up on BC because BC's defense can't stop anybody. They're going to take on Hamilton this week. I still like Bo Levi at home in Hamilton, and kind of what they can do, but with Toronto, they're just a wild card. They're so unpredictable.
Yeah, they're a wild card, man. A super unpredictable team. Defense really not playing well. Offense streaky up and down. I mean, it ain't too much you could say is a good thing about that team right now. They're, like I said, man, they're in rebuild mode. And how they rebuild, I don't know, but they're gonna have to figure it out pretty soon, or there'll be some changes that happen over there too. I would never say Toronto's going to win anyways. They're going to lose.
Okay, all right. No, Edmonton at Calgary. They come off a big game. They beat the Riders. All is good. This is a bit of a trap, if you ask me. They cannot lose to the Eskimos on Monday, or they lose all that momentum. And Cody Fajardo's playing better. They're a respectable team now. The Spinorama's back. He's doing some things. He's doing Cody things. Elks actually look decent. And the other thing, too, Javon Leake and is it Justin Rankin? They're playing well. Those two alone, that offense is ignited. All the pressure's on Calgary to keep this thing going, because Edmonton's still playing with house money because of their terrible start.
Yeah, man. I mean, Edmonton, it's like they got all the right pieces to the puzzle, but just don't know how to put the puzzle together still. So the thing is they just got to keep, fighting, keep working, do their best. Cody Fajardo, those running backs, they got some nice receivers over there. They just need to find a way to piece it all together. But going up against a powerhouse like Calgary, it's going to be a tough one.
It will be. And I think since Cody likes to move around a little bit, that D-line, they're mobile. They may get after it. Let's chat you a little bit of life update. If I'm following correctly, Texas is in the rear view mirror. Are you officially in Wyoming now?
Yeah, man. I moved from Texas to Wyoming now, so another part of the country.
If you're there to shoot a Yellowstone reboot with Kevin Costner, that's great. But what else what brought you to Wyoming?
Really work. I've been in Wyoming for about 2 weeks, almost a week now. So I've been in Wyoming for almost a week now. It's not bad, not a bad place to be. I'm like 20 minutes from the mountains. I get to see the mountains every morning. I went up to the mountains this weekend, so that was pretty fun. I did some hiking around in the woods. Got in touch with my neighbor.
Because last time we had you on, you said you were in Wyoming and you were going to go chase a bear, or a bear was going to chase you. And I'm like, I don't know if he's serious or not. Maybe he is. Don't let the bears chase you. That's not all good. Hey, college football starts on Saturday. Who's your team, or who are you watching? Because Texas is number one, coached by former Saskatchewan Roughrider quarterback Steve Sarkisian. Kerry Joseph's on the staff there now. There's all of the hype. Michigan bought some new quarterback. They brought him in. The money, the NIL money's flowing. Who do you like in college football this year?
University of Wyoming.
Whoa. Josh Allen's alma mater.
Josh Allen. See, I was going to see if you knew that.
Oh, and if we're for all you sports fans out there, what is the name of the University of Wyoming, what? Fill in the blank. Some people no. I think the correct answer is the Cowboys.
Put it in the comments. Put it in the comments below.
Put it in the comments below. Hit Charleston up on Twitter with your Wyoming travel tips of things to do and things to not do. University. Wow, that's going. Because are they Div 1 or are they Div 2?
D1.
They are D1. Yeah, but they play in those crazy conferences down there. Yeah. As always, there's always a lot of hype about them, but they don't always win the national championship. You still think the SEC will be some of the stiffest competition in college football this year in the regular season? Forget the playoffs.
Oh, it will. Tough. It's tough league to play in right there, man.
Yeah. Charleston Hughes, what could you do with some of that NIL money that these kids are getting when you were 19 and 20 years old? Holy smokes.
I wish it existed when I played, man. I'll tell you that much. I know a lot of players say that, that at my age. I wish it was existed. I wish NIL money existed. Ooh,
You've got guys in the CFL wanting to go back to college just to get NIL money.
Yeah, I got a nephew right now that plays first year at Cincinnati. He's probably one of the top defensive tackles in the country, and he's an NIL guy too. So I just look at him and just shake my head, just sad.
Listen, okay, so if we're going to follow the University of Cincinnati, what's his name? We'll look him up. We'll Wikipedia him. Who is he?
Do your research. Go look. Let me know who the best
Cincinnati
is.
All right. And we'll send him a we'll send him a DM on Instagram, say, send Uncle Charleston some of that NIL money out in Wyoming. He's trapped in the forest with some bears. All right.
Yeah, I was happy. I got to see him play in Texas at Texas Tech.
Nice. It's good stuff. Charleston, we always appreciate the time. Stay safe in the woods of Wyoming. We'll check in a couple of weeks, unless otherwise, and good luck at the new job. And we'll check in from there. It's Rider and Stampeder legend. Could have got 100 sack and been the most prolific sack guy in Stampeder history, but Will Johnson and him will stay tied at 99. He is a stallion. It's Charleston Hughes on the Sports Cage right here on 620 CKRM. NFL teams are announcing their cuts, and earlier today, Rider receiver Joe was waived by the Indianapolis Colts. He could still end up on a practice roster with the Colts or any other team that may choose to pick him up. Also waived today was quarterback Tyler Elgersma of the Green Bay Packers. The Canadian quarterback also could end up on the Packers practice roster. The Raiders have signed wide receiver Amari Cooper. For all you fantasy football fanatics, if you're an Amari Cooper fan, maybe this stint with the Raiders will revive his career. Tonight, it's the showing of the first of 60, a classic Labor Day rivalry. The Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame and Provincial Archives are showing footage of their very first official meeting between the Riders and the Bombers back on Labor Day in 1949. Rob Vanstone will be your host. It's tonight from 7 until 9 at the Provincial Archives. The Argos have released American D lineman Jordan Williams. He played 10 games for them. And the Jays continue their homestand tonight with the Minnesota Twins. The Jays are 5 games up on the Red Sox and 6 games up on the Yankees. And that's your sports ticker. Now, if you were listening to the Sports Cage yesterday, when Darian was on during his Double Talk segment, he gave the answer to the Pump Jacks trivia question, which we're going to ask in about 35 minutes time. You can win a $100 gift card to go to Pump Jacks, maybe have a little pre-Labor Day Classic party, and then head over to the game. Pump Jacks trivia, the answer was yesterday in the Double Talk segment with Darian Duran. It's pretty easy. But in researching it, those were some dark days. Wow, not good. 09, 010, Grey Cup. Couldn't be beat. 2011 comes along. Terrible. 1-7 going into the Labor Day Classic. Not 8-2 like this year. So even with that loss on the weekend of the Stamps, yeah, you know what? Charleston Hughes just said it the first hour. Sometimes you got to lose. Losing's not a bad thing. Teaches you what you need to know how to win. Bombers, Riders, with a kickoff at 5 o'clock. That means the 620 CKRM Cooperators Rider Broadcast Network has countdown to kickoff starting at 2. Rider Nation pregame show at 4. Dave and Luke will have the call. Bombers and Riders at 5. And when the Riders play, get the KFC Game Day Special, the Big Crunch combo for the Big Crunch for $4.95, the Big Crunch combo for $7.95 at participating KFC locations. I like the 2 o'clock Labor Day start. I remember those days. Nothing wrong with the 5, but I like the 2 o'clock on Labor Day. Get up, do your thing, little football game. It all goes the right way. Little time after, and you roll from there. It'll be 5 o'clock. Forecast looks great. What are we looking for? A mix of sun and cloud on Sunday? 26, 27 degrees at kickoff. Man, game is sold out. And last week, the Riders put standing room tickets on sale for $36 plus tax. Not sure if there's even any of those left. It's going to be tight. It's going to be packed. It's going to be an electric Mosaic Stadium. And we're going to chat with the CFL. It's time to go coast to coast with Arash Madani.
It's time to go coast to coast with Arash Madani for Smart Investing Solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Gawley at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
Arash, let's start with the big news because maybe you'll know the answer to this. All social media today is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce getting engaged. So my question to you, because you might have inside knowledge, his former Cincinnati Bearcat teammate, Zach Collaros, what is the over-under on him being part of the wedding party? I'm not saying best man, but one of the guys that will stand up for him in the Swift-Kelce merger when they do decide to walk down the aisle.
Very good question, Maz. I'm not on the fence on this one. I think it depends on size of wedding. Will they do the royal wedding extravaganza with everybody invited and large bridal parties and groomsmen? If so, I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
If they do something super small, super private, I think the answer is maybe. I'll tell you this. KC played in Buffalo on a Sunday night. It's either last season or the season before. Late in the year, Zach was in the suite with Jason and Taylor, and that's now granted he lives in suburban Toronto in the off season, etc. But that's a small little circle inside that suite at the Bill Stadium. But I tell you this, I have news. We can ask Zach tomorrow on the show because Mr. Collaros will be joining us live on the SportsCage tomorrow when I come into studio to join Barney for an afternoon of fun and games.
I asked Barney yesterday, I said, are you going to tease potentially who's coming on the show on Wednesday? Because I'm not looking after the text line. I interviewed Jay McNeil, president of the Stamps, last week, and the text line was melting down. What is this? This is Rider Radio, not Stampeder Radio. And I thought, when I heard, I'm like, oh, you guys are going to get Zach Collaros on? Rider Nation's going to lose their mind. Keep in mind, he was part of Rider Nation. We really like the guy. We didn't want to get rid of him. We can't hate him for the success he's had. I mean, he's gone on to have a great career. So if Zach Collaros comes on tomorrow, oh, man. It's a great get by you guys. I've always liked the guy because I like him because he's got a little bit of an edge to him, but he was just a guy that wanted to play football and win. Hey, listen, nobody wanted to see. He unfortunately got hurt, and the Riders, they made a decision and moved on. And then Zach just happened to move on and start winning and keep on winning.
Well, and don't forget, there was another stop on tour in between. He went to Toronto. The Argos were done with him at the last minute, probably after the trade deadline, if we're being honest. The deal was processed to send him from the Bombers, from the Argos to the Bombers. And people inside the building there in Winnipeg told me that Mike O'Shea wasn't happy about it because he wanted to ride Drew Willie. Amazing how things go. Right? Next thing you know, 5 straight Grey Cups. They win 2 of them. Zach's on his way to the Hall of Fame. And, because you have yourself a franchise quarterback of that capability, Mike O'Shea's on his way to the Hall of Fame as a coach and as a player. But back to the news of the day. I saw this one today, Maz, and I have to share this with you. This morning, on a couple of the sports books, the odds of Kelsey and Swift getting engaged this year was about 25%. And it has been for the last number of months. By the time early morning turned to mid-morning, it went up to 45%. So somebody knew something at some point along the way. And we'll find out tomorrow from Caleros if he had any intel on any of it.
Well, Colson, put up these pictures because there's engagement photos, and these don't happen spur of the moment. Like, these have to be planned. Somebody's got to shoot it. And Arash, you've been around TV long enough. Although there's only 2 people in front of the camera, on a photo shoot like this, there'd be a crew of probably 5, 10, 20-ish people. That's a lot of potential leaks that could just slide a subtle text message or a DM here or there. Hey, just was part of this. Keep my name out of it, but something to watch for.
Maz, I tell you what, that is not done in downtown Kansas City on the day after training camp ends while coaches are doing roster cutdowns. I'd love to know 2 things. 1, how many security guards were involved in and around the perimeter of wherever this is? 2, where the engagement took place. 2, how many NDAs had to be signed by how many people who would have been in and around there who had intel that Travis and Taylor were going to be getting engaged? I think those are all fair questions.
So my initial thoughts when I saw those photos, it was at the Temple Gardens Spa in Moose Jaw. But I can't confirm, so I don't want to go big with that. But that's my hunch, and we go from there. Arash, walking out of the stadium in Calgary on Saturday at McMahon, there was a lot of us Rider fans going, "What just happened?" Yesterday was Overreaction Monday on the show. People had a chance to vent, melt down a little bit. Today we're a little more calm. But Dave Dickinson and the Calgary Stampeders once again put the Saskatchewan Roughriders in a pretzel and took away everything they do well on offense and defense, and the Stamps picked up another win.
And I don't want to be like, go full Belichick on this, Maz. Like, if you're Corey Mace and the Riders, you're on to Cincinnati. Like, it's just on to the next one. I remember Jerry Glanville, renegade Jerry Glanville back in the day, way before he became the Ticats defensive coordinator. When he was in Atlanta, he said, some games, sometimes things just happen where you can't really learn much from the tape. You just burn the tape and you move on. Rex Ryan infamously took his team out from a team meeting after they got run out of the gym one game. They went to the back of the facility. He had a shovel. He dug a hole, and they put the game film in there, symbolic of, look, bleep happens, we move on. And this game will have no significance if the Riders win the next 2. This game has all the significance if you spend too much time dwelling. So, Vernon played extremely well. The Riders did not play well. I think that the more learnings from this game come, the next time red and white means green and white. But to me, like, there's just, you can't have any residue with this rivalry back-to-back coming up with the Bombers. You just can't.
I think they can shake off a lot of this. The one thing that I am worried about, the confidence, because Brett Lothar comes out in the first quarter and he misses a 20-yard field goal, which if you're a pro kicker, those have got to be automatic. I don't know what the automatic range is anymore, Arash. Is it 40? Is it 45? Or you have to be in the 90th percentile. Anything beyond that, okay, it gets worse. But he's in his own head. They may need him. The Bombers do advantage Bombers. I don't care what anybody says, advantage Bombers when it comes to special teams and their field goal kicker, because Castillo's bombing it from everywhere. It just being there, it kind of let the air out of the building a little bit for Rider fans when he missed that field goal, because it's like, oh no. Because not only right then, but it casts a shadow of a doubt for the rest of the game of, what if we got to go to him?
Yeah, and it's, look, I'm still backing Brett Lawler, but I can totally understand why the "here we go again" thing can resonate. And what I wonder now, and look, this can all be erased with a couple of strong games, with a game-winning kick, with a big
Oh, yeah.
kick. My question now is, do people in the locker room wonder? They're not going to say it out loud, but are they kind of whispering or thinking to themselves? And that's where things can get a little dicey. So look, it's always on to the next one for a kicker, but like you just get the sense that this game for Brett means a lot more just because of what has gone on the last few weeks.
Bombers are learning how to win with adversity. Guys are getting hurt. New faces in the lineup. Guys are going down. Last game, running game started to roll a little bit. Zach Collaros looked like he was starting to hit some cylinders. Willie Jefferson was knocking down passes like Willie Jefferson does. And to me, all the pressure is on the Riders to win these next two games. The Bombers, who a lot of people have written off because they're only at 6-4. There's nothing there. They're old. Hang it up. O'Shea's done. Winnipeg is trending in the right direction.
Maybe, but they beat a Montreal team with a fourth-string quarterback, and they had Chris Streveler playing slot back. I don't know like how trending in the right direction that is, Maz. Like they let Brady Oliveira carry the mail. That's what you need to do when your offense is sputtering and struggling and all those things. You go to the best player in the league and you hand him the ball and you get him the ball in the backfield and let him go do work. The week before they beat Ottawa, an Ottawa team that didn't have Drew Brown for 4 quarters. So the honest question is, honest statement is, I don't know where the Bombers are trending. The week before they lose to Calgary in a bizarre game. I'm not quite sure who and what the Bombers are. Like when it's a 3-point game against the Alouettes, nearing the midway point of the fourth quarter, if that game went just a little hairy, a little sideways, a couple of turnovers, yikes. So I'm not ready to kind of put a possession arrow in any kind of direction for Winnipeg right now.
Because it is the CFL and you love it, we have to, with warts and all. Because Montreal is on their 9th quarterback and we're only 10 weeks into the season, only in the CFL can that kind of craziness happen. You can't be faulted for who's on the schedule in front of you and the record that they have at the time. You just have to win those games, and that they are. Yeah. Had they lost to Montreal and had they lost to Ottawa, whole different scenario of like, this team is really circling the drain. And is it time for Mike O'Shea to wrap things and all of that? But they're winning when they kind of need to, and you see some things there. With Labor Day coming up on this weekend, and we chatted with Darian yesterday, and he told us his favorite Labor Day game as a Rider. Okay. And it was during a terrible season. Is there a Labor Day that stands out for you?
Oh, yeah. I tell this story every year on the Cage. And I'm telling you, Maz, it withstands the test of time. A little bit. There's a little bit makes it dated because I worked for the Bombers in 2008, and Charles Roberts was the running back. So in those days, the team would travel by bus from Winnipeg, stop at Brandon for the guys to stretch their legs out, and sandwiches were provided. Like this is true. Then they would come in, practice like a walkthrough in Regina. The boys would have themselves an evening in Regina. The next day, walk through at Old Taylor Field, and then would go to Moose Jaw and stay at the spa, away from the hoopla of Labor Day, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I'd never lived on the prairies. I'd never experienced a Labor Day in Regina. The GM of the Bombers at the time is Brendan Taman, who was the GM of the Riders when they won the 2013 Grey Cup. Taman, a couple of weeks before the Labor Day game, says to me, he said, "You've never done a Labor Day in Sask, huh?" I'm like, "No." He said, "Okay." He's like, "You have to stay in Regina on the Saturday. Don't go with the team to Moose Jaw. You stay. You have to just go experience it. And it was like I tell people, it's one of the true experiences of Canadiana. Like it really is. Just like the Briar Patch at curling at the Briar. So Sunday morning, game day, I'm checking out of this hotel in Regina, and I'm at the checkout desk. When I hear the elevator door open, I look to my left, and there's Charles Roberts. And he looks at me, and he says, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "What am I doing here?" I'm like, "Dude, you got to be in Moose Jaw right now or on a bus on the way from Moose Jaw. What am I doing here? What are you doing here?" "Want to ride to the stadium?" Sure. So I jump in Charles's car. We get in. Charles lights a cigarette and starts driving towards Old Taylor Field, stops Maz at a 7-Eleven, puts the car in park. The cigarette remains in the ashtray, and he looks at me and he says, "Want any breakfast?" I'm like, "I'm good, Charles. Thank you." He goes in, he gets himself 2 Snickers bars and 2 Red Bulls in a little 7-Eleven bag. We drive to the stadium. "Got a parking pass?" "I don't have a parking pass." We talked our way into the Ken Austin lot, park the car. Charles lights a second cigarette, and he walks into Old Taylor Field with a 7-Eleven bag of Snickers and Red Bull, a lit cigarette, and it ended up being his last game as a Bomber. They ended up trading him for Joe Smith of the BC Lions a couple of days later. That, to me, the Labor Day class. Who and what Charles Roberts had going on the night before that Labor Day game, I don't know. But I can tell you the breakfast of champions was 2 Red Bulls, 2 Snickers, and 2 cigarettes.
I think that story connects on a lot of levels for SportsCage fans. A, you were kind of ditching your job and playing Dodge
Yes.
Boss, which is great. The balanced meal at 7-Eleven, that's checkbox number 2, and then lit cigarettes all over the place. Checkbox number 3. So if Zach Collaros doesn't do this on Sunday, Arash, I will be a little disappointed if he doesn't live up to Bomber lore of like, listen, Zach, here's what you got to do. Could I ask a question? The car, was it a rental or was it the lady friend's car that he had met the night before? Where did the car come from in the story?
That car, I don't think Charles took the bus with the team. I think Charles drove on his own. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It wasn't the first cigarette smoked in that car, I promise you that much, Maz.
Oh, life before HR departments was all good. This is kind of crazy. Nick Arbuckle goes all Tom Brady on the weekend for the BC Lions. And then Trevor Harris has a very pedestrian game, throws for a couple hundred yards. But the PFF, the Pro Football Focus guys, put Trevor Harris ahead of Arbuckle on the honor roll this week.
I don't get it. Especially, like, on top of it all, Trevor throws for a couple of picks. Trevor had a 3-score loss. Arbuckle had a 3-score win. I don't know if there was a typo. I don't know what they were looking at. I get the last year's Grey Cup. The stakes are obviously different, and the scenario is different. That Arbuckle just gets thrown into that whole thing. But I think from a regular season standpoint, that may have been Nick Arbuckle's best game as a starting quarterback in the Canadian Football League. He mathematically kept Toronto alive. They put up more than 50 points, 3 touchdowns, no picks, over 470 yards of offense, efficient, smart, all those things. I don't even know how Trevor was in the conversation, to be quite honest with you. What also impressed me, Maz, is that that's an Argo team that was 2-8, trailing 14-3. It could have been really easy to fold up their tent, and Nick Arbuckle was a big reason why they didn't.
Couple of things. I think that the Argos at 3-8 are the most dangerous 3-8 football team in the Canadian Football League. If they somehow just got into the playoffs just 'cause, even with a terrible record, you can't bet against them, because the other thing too is Ryan Dinwiddie and his coaching, with what he's had to do with the depleted roster, the injuries, the juggling, the all of that. And I saw, who did they release today? Williams.
They signed Mackay Polk. They signed Mackay Polk, who's comes cut by Atlanta, was basically their number 2 receiver last year after Coxie, and they, Arbuckle didn't have his number 1 target either in that win over BC. But I think we're going to have a really good idea of where the Argos are in a month. You got Hamilton, you have Montreal, you go to BC all in the month of September, and Edmonton somewhere in that mix. So, it's a ruthless October. They have Hamilton, then they go to Sask and Calgary back to back. So can they sneak in? Maybe, I guess. But we're in a scenario, Maz, where I think the crossover is very much in play. Right? I mean, you have Calgary, Sask, Winnipeg, BC. One of those teams is going to have a far superior record to the Argos and the Red Blacks. So that's going to be the issue, I think, for Toronto.
Before we jump into baseball, Tyler Elgersma, released by the Green Bay Packers. Do you think he sticks on a practice roster with them or somewhere in the NFL? That he may get a look and at least hang around for this whole season somewhere?
Yeah, I was checking it this afternoon because teams are starting, everybody gets released today and there's so much movement. I believe that Elgersma's best chance is right there in Green Bay to stick around on the PR.
Yeah.
You have Matt LaFleur. You have a team that's invested a little bit into you. You know the offense. You know the system. You know the whole thing. He may get scooped up somewhere else on somebody else's PR, but he's almost got to start from scratch when it comes to learning the playbook, learning the language, learning the terminology, etc. If Green Bay extends a practice roster offer to him, you've got to take it. And I wonder, Maz, if you're Elgersma, if it doesn't happen, are you still better off waiting just to see how this season plays out? Don't sign in Winnipeg, won't your CFL rights, and just give this one more year. Like a year ago at this time, you were gearing up for the season with Laurier. You're in no rush. Give yourself one more shot at an NFL opportunity and then see where the chips fall where they may after that.
The one thing I like about Matt LaFleur is that because of the coaching tree that they came from, is that he is, to me, seems like the type of guy that, forget pedigree, didn't like LaFleur, if he sees what he wants, would give Elgersma a shot to be quarterback. Doesn't matter he didn't go to an American college, not drafted high, all of that. Can you run my offense? And can you run it real well? And that's why I agree with you. He needs to stay in Green Bay if he can, because he has a coach there that's a quarterback whisperer that could be like, all right, he may be nobody else's guy for 31 teams, but he could be one of the guys for one of the teams. So I agree
and
with
look,
you there.
Here's the thing. As of now, and a lot can still change because of all the movement in the league, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, because Green Bay waived Sean Clifford, the other quarterback there, right now Green Bay only has 2 quarterbacks on their roster. It's Jordan Love and Malik Willis. So there's going to be opportunity. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those wait and see things.
And it's funny. And until the games get played and then the injuries happen, next thing you know, like they could be 2 men down. And Shedeur Sanders, for anybody that's wondering, is the number 3 quarterback in Cleveland. And Jays, they win again last night. They're up, 5 on the Sox, 6 on the Yankees. There's a good chance, unless something catastrophic happens, we're in that wild card. Things are looking good. I know there's still a month of baseball to play, Arash. Who's the one wild card team that you don't want to play? I say it's Seattle. They're too much like us. They can play any style. They can have good pitching. They can explode for runs. Who's on your no list as far as wild card teams when it comes to the Jays?
Yeah, I guess Seattle, like, I'm not worried about Detroit. I wonder what's going on with the Astros. Boston's turned it up. There's a series 3 weeks from now, I think, Maz. Boston comes to town. I think that's going to be electric. Like, that's going to be basically for the division. That's going to give us some real kind of insight as to where both teams are going to land. I tell you this, there are very few teams, if you're the Blue Jays, that you're worried about. Honestly, the American League is up for grabs. There is no dominant team, and the Blue Jays have real starting pitching. And that is what October is about. You know, you have a scenario where you go Gosman. If Scherzer's thumb is able to hold up, he's in that mix. I don't even know if Chris Bassett, you know, how you would work a best-of-5 series. Is it Bassett? Is it Barrios? Where's Eric Lauer in all of this? They have depth. They have options. These are things that teams wish to have in October. This is what the Blue Jays have wanted to have. They've had so much health with their starting pitching this season, and now the most important part of the year, the payoff looks like it could be there.
If you're an executive at Rogers and you're sitting around a boardroom table and they're spinning a wheel of how expensive can we make these Blue Jays playoff tickets because we're going to sell every last one of them. Tick, 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 tick. Oh, it just landed on ridiculous. Like, I think because of the drought, Arash, you know this, no matter what the cost, it's like Oasis. They played in Toronto the past couple of nights. No matter what the cost, if you love Oasis, you're going to plop down your hard-earned money. And I'm expecting in the ridiculous 4 digits for tickets.
Yeah, I mean,
and even some of the crappier ones.
I know of somebody who dropped $20,000 for a courtside seat to the 2019 NBA Finals. There are people who are willing to do wild things when it comes to bandwagon, and yeah, that's a real thing, Maz. So, you know, where were you when?
Wow. If you missed it earlier, Arash broke the story that Zach Collaros will be a guest on the SportsCage tomorrow with Barney, and Arash is going to be in studio at Century Studios in Regina. If we don't have a sign waiting for you at the airport when Colson and I come and pick you up, it's not because we didn't try. It's just we got a lot going on. My kids, they going back to school in a few days, and trying to get all that arranged, all of that. So Colson will be in a.
Colson has
what
no.
year is the
Colson has no. Yeah, Colson's got no excuse. Maz, before we wrap, I think it's.
Yes.
And I want to talk about this on the show tomorrow as well. But condolences to the friends and family of Craig Smith, former assistant GM, personnel director of the Riders and the BC Lions and the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and Craig died after some over the weekend, some serious health complications. This is a dude who loved Canadian football. And when I say Canadian football, he worked in the CFL. He would be I'll never forget this because I bugged him about it all the time. We were both working an NFL preseason game. We're in the press box. And Craig's scouting the NFL game. He's got one tablet open, watching a U Sports game. He's got his laptop screen open, watching a CFL game. Loved Canadian football. Loved U Sports football. Had so much respect for the university game. His wife Kathy, they were a package deal, man. You'd go on the road, and the two of them would be there together. So, sincere condolences. It's a loss for the game. It's a loss for a lot of people who knew him. And he's going to be missed across league circles. A lot of people knew this was coming, but it's still jarring when it happens, and that's what happened over the weekend.
Arash, safe travels tomorrow. Don't be afraid to drop Barney's name at the airport or wherever you may need it. I don't know if it gets you any further or anywhere or gets you taken into a private room for an extra secure search. But hey, listen, it's all an adventure, right? That's why we love sports.
Appreciate you, man. See you tomorrow.
It's Arash Madani and Coast to Coast right here on the SportsCage. Yeah, Zach Collaros will be on the show tomorrow just after 3 o'clock. Arash knows Zach quite well, and I'm looking forward to that. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask Zach? Prairie Land Rentals text line 306-936-6262. You can get those in now. This is the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 620 CKRM. Hey, before we get to Clutch Performer, if you want to start dialing now for Pump Jacks Trivia, you can win a $100 gift card if you know the answer to our Pump Jacks Trivia question. 306-936-6262 or toll free 866-767-0620. The answer Darian Durant gave yesterday during Double Talk. So if you heard the segment, or I teased it earlier, if you had a chance to go back and listen, it's pretty simple. Pump Jacks Trivia, we're going to do that in like a couple minutes. Call now. If we get you on the phone, you're going to have, I'll ask you the question. You got 10 seconds to answer. If you get it right, within those 10 seconds, $100 gift card is yours. Pump Jacks Trivia. Call now. Durant, Labor Day question. All right. Clutch Performer for Nick Service. Shout out to all the volunteers that put on the Arcola Roughstock Rodeo last Friday. Putting on a rodeo, if you've ever been on a rodeo committee, it's no easy task, no small feat to pull it off. And they did. Outstanding. And rodeo there, remember, they get a couple of days to it. It's all on Friday. And they had stuff going from early in the morning till late at night, including the cabaret. So everybody with the Arcola Roughstock Rodeo, you're our Clutch Performer for Nick's service. We appreciate it. What do you think of Arash? He's betting that Zach Collaros, if it is a big wedding, if you missed the news earlier today, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are getting married. Of course they are, right? Of course. If you're already over her being shown every time the Chiefs play, well, this isn't going to help that. It's not going to dial down. It's probably only going to ramp up. Colson, and here's what I feel bad about, is that if you're a Swiftie in this era, now you're lucky you already got married, but if you're a Swiftie and you're planning your wedding and you're like, well, Taylor's doing this, Taylor's doing that, for whatever poor guy or guys are out there to be like, hun, she's a billionaire. She could afford to pay for all those bridesmaids' dresses or the crazy things at the hall. All right, we're on a Saskatchewan wedding budget. I got aunts and uncles. People are going to be showing up in denim, a freshly pressed flannel shirt from Costco if we're lucky, maybe the odd suit jacket with past wedding napkins in the chest pocket from weddings of years gone by, and packs of matches. Can you even give out packs of matches anymore with your name on it? Is that illegal? I know we're in a climate. Is it a climate crisis or a climate emergency? I can never tell. No disrespect if I got that wrong. I just know you probably shouldn't give out matches anymore. Nobody smokes. Expect Charles Robertson. That Arash Madani story from Labor Day. Colson, are we ready for Pump Jacks Trivia? Do we have somebody ready to go on the line? Okay, we're gonna go to break. Okay, so Pump Jacks Trivia. We're gonna take a commercial break here. 306-936-6262. Darian Durant gave the answer yesterday in his segment, and it has to do with Labor Day. Win a $100 gift card. Let's take a break. Come back. This is the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM. All right. As we've been telling you, you can win a $100 gift card. Pump Jacks Trivia. Albert and 13th and Regina. Kids are welcome to late live music on weekends. It's a great place before and after the game. Rider fan Travis, going to take a stab at this. 306-936-6262. So Travis, the way this works, we put 10 seconds on the clock. I ask you the question, answer it within the 10 seconds. You and your buddies get to go to Pump Jacks, have a little pregame action before the Labor Day Classic on Sunday. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. What was Darian Durant's favorite Labor Day game as a Saskatchewan Roughrider? What was Darian Durant's favorite Labor Day game as a Saskatchewan Roughrider? What year did that happen?
Oh, man. Going out on a limb with this. 2010.
Oh, close. So I'm thinking he was... Travis, I think you were half lifting. Durant said his favorite Labor Day game as a Saskatchewan Roughrider actually happened in 2011 because they came into it 1-7. He said they were awful, but then they ended up whipping the Bombers 27-7, and then they went on to go win the Banjo Bowl, I think, the next week, 45-23. Trav, thanks for playing Pump Jacks Trivia today. We really appreciate it. We do it every Tuesday. It's a chance for you to win your way to Pump Jacks. So, Colson, so the pot grows next week. It's $150 next Tuesday, correct? Is that what we're going to be playing for next Tuesday when we do Pump Jacks Trivia, because it grows $50 every week?
That is correct.
If there is a wrong answer. That is correct. All right. All right. What are we doing here? We'd mentioned earlier in the show that with it being Overreaction Monday, there was a lot of people not handling losing to the Stamps on the weekend very well. There were some good calls to the post-game show, though. Some people that were, probably a little more level-headed than I was leaving the stadium at McMahon. We want to, Colson, who is this here that said, I can't remember who it was, but they're sticking with the team. They're not,
this was Andrew
ride or die
faith.
Andrew is keeping the faith. He's ride or die with this Saskatchewan Roughrider team.
If our biggest worry, and yes, it's a bad game, but if our biggest worry is that we're 8-2 at Labor Day, this is a good season to me. And you're allowed a bad game, and this 5-game stretch, which I'm sure you guys have talked about, was never going to be easy. When you had Hamilton, Calgary back to back with Winnipeg's, and then Montreal, who could be getting a quarterback back, it was never going to be easy. Calgary's a tough place to play. All I ask is that, Rider fans pack the barn for Labor Day, support the team still. There's no reason to switch up now on a team that's 8-2, saying they don't have wins against teams against 500. It's not their fault other teams aren't playing as well. They've taken care of business to this point. One team standing your way. One thing I will say, too, is it is very, very, very tough to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. So, with saying that, if we meet a Calgary in the playoffs, that is something that you can say. Not saying that they can't do it, but it's very tough to do.
All right. He's in. I get it. It was a game. We got beat by the better team. I think, and I agree. That third time, though, although the Stamps beat the Bombers 3 times in a row. So if we do meet the Stamps again, that next scenario is a playoff situation, because we don't play them again in the regular season, but they hold the season series on us and the Bombers. So if we are in a tie, they would get home field advantage. And that was my biggest concern going into the game, because at least if they split, then there's a bunch of other factors that have to come into play. It would be great if we just run away with it and they're not even close. But if that's not the case, that's why you need these season series, and they've got the 2 against the teams that at the moment that are in contention. Another good call from the post-game show on the weekend. This is Jeff. Jeff was not a fan of the O-line. He thought that they were bad.
They were totally abysmal. Missed assignments. Brammer was very bad. They looked a little bit lost out there, so not their best performance. So I really like Dean Picton. It's Dean Picton, isn't it? He works really hard. He's a local boy. And
Mitch Picton.
Mitch Picton, sorry. The last Calgary game he played, he was, I think, the leading receiver, and now he's been benched. I think they should maybe put him in the mix a little more. So he's a good player, and I think he would be more productive than Duncan Busby, actually.
That actually is a good point. And nothing against Del Duncan Busby and how he's played, but it just seems that whenever Mitch is in the lineup, Mitch makes plays. They go to him. Mitch is money. Plus with that experience, and you have so many injuries now, that experience on the field, that, once again, nothing against Del Duncan Busby, but maybe another, like a Mitch Picton, somebody with a lot more experience, can just bring that sense of calm and urgency, because they had Myers and Keyshawn Johnson, for the most part, shut down. That's a great point. That's a great call. If there's something to say about that game on Saturday, 1-866-767-0620, or you can text us your thoughts, 306-936-6262. We'll take a break, come back with the sports ticker. This is the SportsCage on the home of local sports in Saskatchewan, 620 CKRM. In the NFL, former Saskatchewan Roughrider receiver Joe Joe was waived by the Indianapolis Colts. He may end up on their practice roster. Also waived was Canadian quarterback Tyler Elgersma of the Green Bay Packers. Same situation could apply there. The Las Vegas Raiders have signed wide receiver Amari Cooper. And tonight it's the showing of the first of 60, a classic Labor Day rivalry. The Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame, the Provincial Archives showing footage of the very first official Labor Day Classic between the Riders and the Bombers. It goes tonight from 7 until 9 at the Provincial Archives. And the Jays continue their homestand tonight with the Minnesota Twins. The Jays are 5 games up on the Red Sox and 6 games up on the New York Yankees. Alrighty, it's that time of the show. Colson, we got him. Brian Raymond from Flowing Springs Golf Course. We got him on the line. Here we are. Brian, the best part about this weather, scorching hot during the day, but makes for some great evening golf. And the twilight rate, well, Brian, it's not really twilight when it kicks in at 3 o'clock and the price gets better. You're being incredibly generous with your twilight hours.
That's right. It does start at 3 o'clock, Mav. $38 to come out and play the golf course after 8 o'clock or after 3 o'clock. And I'm sure you can certainly get 18 holes in at that time. And we've moved up our late twilight now. It's at 5:30, just again to make sure that people can get 9 holes in before it gets too dark. And in another couple of weeks, we'll move it up even further. But, yeah, some great deals. And, of course, every Monday and every Wednesday, seniors, people over 60, are seniors here. And ladies, It's only $39 to play the golf course all day.
Now, on the weekend, we saw Mr. Fleetwood pick up $10 million for winning his first ever golf tournament. That's kind of nice. And Patrick Cantlay, one of the slowest golfers. Brian, that's frustrating to watch on TV. So what do we tell the folks that are coming out to Flowing Springs? Keep it moving,
this is an ongoing problem with golf courses absolutely everywhere. So consider this a public service announcement for golf courses. Folks, you shouldn't be spending more than 4.5 hours on a golf course on any day of the week. If you're spending more time than that, then you're way too slow. And the other thing is, the last point I'll make about that, fix your ball marks.
All right. Hey, what if we spend 4.5 hours in the lounge after our quick round of golf? That's
fine. There was no problem there.
All right.
But Matt, one of the things too I should point out, we now have our fall sale on, so we've got some great specials in the pro shop here. Skechers shoes are 25 to 50% off, and Sundog sunglasses are 40% off, and we've got a whole bunch of other stuff on sale too. So there's lots of reasons to come to Flowing Springs. To
get in touch, Brian, give us the phone number and then the website.
Yes, sir. Give us a call. We'll get you on the golf course, 306-543-5050, and you can book online at flowingspringsgolf.com.
Glen Suitor next on the SportsCage on 620 CKRM as we're going to do press coverage with Glen. Stand by. We're giving you a chance to win your way into a Rider game and a $200 SaskTel gift card. The SaskTel Pick the Score. All you have to do is tell us who wins the Labor Day Classic coming up on Sunday. Text that along with your first and last name to 306-936-6262. The right score, or the closest to, wins. Welcome to the final hour of the show on this Tuesday afternoon. It's Maz in for Barney today. He'll be back in tomorrow. And Arash Madani will be joining us in our Century Studios. And Arash broke the news earlier. Right after 3 o'clock, very first guest on the show will be Winnipeg Blue Bombers starting quarterback, Zach Collaros. If you're a fan of Zach's, you're tuning in. If it takes everything in your might to stomach anything Winnipeg Blue Bomber, you're going to listen. But I know you're going to be fists clenched, arms folded, going, all right, I'm listening for information purposes. I will get no enjoyment out of this at all because I am a Saskatchewan Roughrider fan. Maybe there's going to be more fuel to the fire for Sunday's game, as I don't think nothing gets printed anymore. I don't even know if they print newspapers to have bulletin board material. Are you even allowed bulletin boards anymore? Or is everything like on a screen? We should ask Suits if he was a bulletin board material guy. Maybe Zach's going to drop some nuggets tomorrow about the Bombers Riders Sunday at 5 for the Labor Day Classic. All right, let's do this. Let's go do a little press coverage with Glen Suitor on the cage.
Time now for press coverage with CFL and Saskatchewan Roughrider legend Glen Suitor on the Sports Cage. Brought to you by Bronco Plumbing and Heating, where professional service is guaranteed. They'll treat you right. 781-2090.
Suits, how are you?
I'm well. I've been listening in, and we've got a lot to cover. We've got a lot to cover here, Maz. I mean, we've got a big wedding to cover. You know, it's a big day in sports when we're talking weddings. Yeah, we've got the interview with Zach Collaros tomorrow. That your discussion on whether people will listen or they'll be so mad they don't. I think that transcends the game. They will. I think it transcends the game a little bit. That we should be listening to the other, even if we're talking politics. And I don't want to take you, Maz, down a political journey right here, real quick, because I know this could go sideways quickly between the two of us in a hurry. But my point is that let's listen to the other camp. You can still have strong beliefs, but let's listen. Like, not just wait for your turn to talk, but listen to what they're saying. There might be some nuggets in there, and I'll be listening tomorrow to Zach when he's in enemy territory talking about the Labor Day Classic.
Well, the thing about Collaros, don't forget, Rider fans, he was once part of Rider Nation, and because of some unfortunate circumstances of him getting hurt, and for him to go on and to win and all that, to be like, I was happy he was able to play football again. And then to have success, listen, I was glad when we had him, but then we had to move on. And like Arash said, Toronto didn't want him, and they got rid of him, and he went. So I'm really looking forward to it tomorrow. My first question: are you going to be in Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding party? Question number one. I say yes.
Of course. I would think so too. I mean, every time that we've talked about that, and we have on the air a few times now, the shots of him in the suite when he was at the game and Travis was playing, and actually Taylor Swift, who by the way, my daughter absolutely adores and loves. So, I know that's not a shocker, but he was in there, and we were talking about it on the air, and we rolled clips showing him in the booth. And, I always remember that the sort of the homework that we did on it was that they're really close buddies, these two are roommates in college and very close. And if that's the case, then I would suspect that he's going to be part of definitely in attendance, but part of the wedding party for sure. Here's I'm going to say wishful thinking, Maz, and maybe, I don't know, maybe just pie in the sky dreaming. But Zach, Travis, and Taylor get together after the party, and they're having a cocktail or whatever they drink afterwards, and they're just discussing the future, games, leagues. And Zach says, "Hey, Travis, why don't you and Taylor buy a CFL franchise and put it in Halifax? I'll run it when I retire from playing the game. You can be like the head of it all, Travis. You know the game, you know the marketing and all that stuff. You're involved. Taylor's kind of the money person." And we buy a 10th. Yeah, kind of. And we get a 10th franchise in Canada. I mean, Ryan Reynolds did it with soccer over there in Europe, so, why not? Wishful thinking, maybe.
Look at Suits. He's 10 steps ahead of the rest of us already. And this wedding announcement just came out. Here's the other thing, Suits, and I'm going to say this. Now, you're married. You got daughters. My wife saw the picture. She goes, "I don't like the ring." And you know how big that is when women are showing off engagement rings. And I'm not saying that it's not expensive. It probably is, I'm assuming, close to 7 figures. It's not the nicest engagement ring out there. All right. You could probably wander through the mall and find maybe something better. Colson, if you want to put up the photos, and far be it for me, and I don't know a lot, but right there, I'm like, yes, it's expensive, but it's a really odd shape. It looks kind of like a football if we're overanalyzing this.
Well, and I'm not sure of the backstory here. Maybe Zach knows for tomorrow, but did they go and pick this together, or is it something that Travis surprised her with, or how did it come about, and what does it mean to them? I mean, that's the most important part. And you can go out and buy the nicest, richest, most expensive, diamond on the planet, but if it doesn't have some sort of sentimental attachment between the two of you, then it's just a piece of jewelry. So
I know,
there must be a backstory there with the ring and how they came up with that. And I'm sure they're both ecstatic about it. And I can't believe we've talked about weddings and rings this long.
Okay. So Suits, remember in the old days, there was those commercials. There was the 3-month salary guideline to buy an engagement ring for the woman you're going to marry. So there's the CFL 3-month salary, there's the NFL, and then there's what Taylor Swift pulls in about 3 months. So if you had to go buy a billionaire, that's a giant diamond. All right, I get it. Like that is if there's any jewelers listening, text in. All right, let's move off the weddings. We'll get to that tomorrow. Suits on Saturday night, and I'm not sure, since you weren't doing the game, if you were just watching like a fan, but a really good Calgary Stampeder team beat a good Saskatchewan Roughrider football team at McMahon Stadium, and I think we saw the two best teams in the CFL play on Saturday night.
Yeah, I agree. And I watched it and of course tape it and then watch it back and then watch certain segments of it. And then, it's a tool for my work, is what watching games that I'm not doing really is. So, I took a look at it. There were, this is not an excuse for Saskatchewan, but that little bit of shuffling they had to do in the secondary, I'm sure affected their communication. It looked like they had some issues there in the back end, which hasn't happened all year. The other thing I noticed was in the trenches, there were two reasons that I think Calgary won the war in the trenches. Whether they were on offense or defense didn't matter. I thought they won in both, on both sides. So there's two ways you can lose. One is assignment, that you miss your assignment. Say Saskatchewan's offensive line misses this assignment, doesn't slide in the direction they're supposed to slide, and there's a free player that goes through the A or B gap. Now, the A gap is between the center and the guard on both sides. The B gap's between the guard and the tackle on both sides. And if you have a free player in those gaps, it's probably a mistake. You're not letting a direct line to your quarterback on a passing play with a defensive lineman or linebacker. It's either a missed block by a back if it's a blitz, or if it's just a 4-man pressure situation, it's definitely a mistake on the offensive line. So there were a couple of those mistakes that were made. I thought there's a great Colson nailed it. That's a great east side. That's looks like the B gap, and there was a mistake made, and you saw us turn around and get angry about it, that he thought there was a communication gap there. So that stuff, Maz, you can fix. Okay. So that stuff is stuff that you go back and look at the film and you go, okay, I slid the wrong direction. I stepped to the wrong guy, whatever it is, whatever the mistake that's being made there, you can correct it. You can fix that mistake. The ones that I would be concerned with if I'm Corey Mace is the ones where you got physically beat, or which can happen too, or you just lost the jump ball. Like I wouldn't be I should say I wouldn't be as worried about those ones for Corey, the physical ones, because they get paid too. They have a very good team too, as you mentioned, and they're going to win battles. But I think the combination in this game was mental mistakes, correctable. That's what Corey Mays should be really emphasizing. We can fix the mental mistakes. That's what he should be upset with. Fix those, but not be as upset about, hey, there was a jump ball. The receiver caught it. Our DB didn't. And next week we will. So you don't slough it off, but you say you can be beat physically in a game and respect the opponent enough to say, hey, they got good players too. The mental mistakes they got to clean up. It was a combination of both of those things that was the reason they lost by as much as they did. And it didn't really feel close in that game, really. I thought Calgary had control of it from start to finish.
They were up 14-2. The Riders came back, made it 15-14 at halftime. And Suits at McMahon, we're all standing in line getting beer. All right, Trevor Harris has got it going. Watch out, second half. Here it comes. The magic was back. They had us, like that saying, they had us in the first half, but here we come. The Riders scored no points in the second half. After the game, Dave Dickinson said, Trevor Harris is a rhythm passer. And they were able to get him out of his rhythm. It seemed like Trevor Harris had no time to do anything. Charleston Hughes thinks it's because they always took away his first read and that there was nothing there. Next thing you know, there was a man on him because of how aggressive, but with restraint, their D-line was playing.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, if you lose a couple of matches physically up front, and let's just say their D lineman beat them, beat the O lineman in front of them. If you give up a couple of those, you can live with them because you say, okay, well, they won that. They won that play. It's okay. No problem. You give up those plus 3 or 4 mental mistakes up front that are correctable mistakes where a guy just is free to the quarterback. Then you have some reason for concern because you've got to clean those up. Against a good team, the mistakes can't happen, especially when it comes to protecting your own quarterback. So
I felt bad for Trevor. He was getting steamrolled, and by the fourth quarter, and there was that one hit there where he got planted in the turf. It looks like he got up wobbly, and then they took him to the tent, but I guess they assessed he was able to come back in and play. And I'm like, man, oh man. Like, it just, for everything that was going right with the Riders, and they made it look very easy when they were beating other teams, it came to a sudden stop on Saturday. And we were just not used to seeing it, I don't think. We're just not used to seeing that because they have handled everything with ease on offense and defense so far.
Right, and there's been times in other games that they've won and looked very good on offense that Trevor Harris has gone to his second or third read when the first was taken away, to Charleston's point, which I'm sure happened in the game. But, if that did happen, Trevor was being hit a split second later. So there wasn't time for him to go to number 2 and number 3. And it wasn't because of a bunch of Calgary exotic blitzes either. If that was the case, then it's a receiver quarterback communication issue that they need to continue to work on to get those hot routes and get the ball out of Trevor's hands when they can't block everybody. Not can't, but they don't have enough numbers. So, I think Charleston's probably bang on. There were times where he took away the number 1 read and Trevor in past games has gone to number 2 and completed, and they moved the chains. This time he looked at number 1 and bam, he didn't have a chance to go to number 2 because that D line was getting after it, and either a mistake was made up front or they were winning their one-on-ones. One you can fix, the other you just gotta dig in. You just got to dig in and win more of those one-on-one battles than you lose.
As we get set for the Labor Day Classic on Sunday, last week the Winnipeg Blue Bombers beat the Montreal Alouettes 26-13. That was the team they played. Nobody knew that Montreal was going to be on their 4th or 5th quarterback, or I've lost count because it's a revolving door there now. You wonder if they would have kept Cody Fajardo, because it's not like McLeod Bethel Thompson came for $75,000. They would have had to pay him good money. Maybe not Cody starter money, but Cody would have been a nice security blanket in a situation like this. But he's in Edmonton now, so they're dealing with that. Winnipeg goes in and does what it needs to do. It beats Montreal. Regardless of who they were lining up against, they won that game. But Suits, what I saw from them is a running game that's gaining momentum. They were doing some things. They were overcoming some injuries. They're battling this adversity. They're learning how to win when the conditions aren't necessarily ripe for winning. I'm a little concerned as a Rider fan because I don't know if we've faced as much adversity as the Bombers so far yet this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the Bombers have faced a ton of adversity this year. They just signed a couple of new receivers. I think Kyron Moore is one, and Cam Eccles was the other, a former Stampeder. because they've been hit in the injury bug in that area. So that's going to be tough. If either of those two guys are playing on Labor Day, how much of the playbook could they have absorbed by now? So, that's not a lot of time to be ready. And they have faced adversity. This is what I see when I see Winnipeg. I still see the talent in Zach and Brady Oliveira and their defense with Willie Jefferson leading the way to win games. What I think is not there now that has been in the last 5 years is this cloak of invincibility that when they walk in the stadium, they're already up a touchdown because the opponent is getting in his own mind that this is the best team in the league. This is the best team in the West. We're gonna have to do something special today to beat this team. And when you start thinking that way, that's when you creep out of your own zone as a DB to help out someone else, or you have a feeling on something because you need to make the big play, and then you end up getting burnt because you left your spot, and all you had to do was take care of your job. Really, that's when those things happen. So I just think Winnipeg has kind of lost that, I don't know, that magic dust that they used to have, that it was sort of, this team is going to be very, very tough to beat. Now you look at them and you go, yeah, they're definitely beatable. They still have the talent that if you don't play your best, you are going to lose. They still have the leading rusher in the league, or top rusher in the league. And I know as a team, they lead the league in rushing per game. So that's part of their DNA, has been for 5 years. So that hasn't changed. And they still have Zach. Zach can beat you. So just like Trevor. So, but Maz, you're the one who called this out. You said, I'll be convinced if the Riders can beat them on Labor Day, which no matter what our record is, we always seem to, or more than not, we seem to win that game. And then go into Winnipeg in the Banjo Bowl and beat them there. You do those two
next
things.
Time. Yeah, you do. Yeah. If you beat Winnipeg 3 times, twice in their house, nobody should stop us from winning the Grey Cup. Okay, so your former teammate Richie Hall and Jordan Younger. So they watched that game on Saturday. They watched that film. And Richie has been able to dial up in the past some incredible defense. Just you think, like, how are they throwing new wrinkles? There's no new wrinkles, Suits. This game's been around a long time. But do they do exactly what the Stampeders did? Do they have the personnel to do exactly what the Stampeders did? Or how does their plan have to be different to attack our weaknesses?
Well, I'm not sure the personnel is the same, for one. They have good personnel, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's the same. I think that Hutchings in the interior of the Calgary D-line, or Rimolade on the edge, Hicks on the edge of that D-line, that's a top group. I mean, I said last week that collectively I thought the Rider D-line was probably the best in the league, and Calgary would be 1A. I think there's some talent up front where they're going to win some one-on-one battles, even with veteran offensive linemen. The Bombers still have Willie, and you have to game plan against Willie, I think. I think on key second downs, stop throwing around him. I know that oversimplified. Yeah,
move the pocket. Get away from him.
Yeah, but just on the key second and longs, if Trevor had an audible to say, Willie's lined up on the left, I'm rolling right. We're not going to try and throw it around that oak tree. Enough of that. It's difficult to game plan against the D lineman. You don't really do that, but you can chip them in a lot of things. So to answer your question though about the coaching strategy, absolutely they will steal from the Calgary tape. They'll take a look at that and they're going to see what they did coverage wise and things like that to make Trevor hold it that extra second. They'll probably try and copy a little of that. And then they have to rely on their own personnel to win enough one-on-one battles. What they shouldn't even consider is that the Riders will make the same mental mistakes that they made in Calgary.
Agreed. I mean, they'll do that. One of the things that came up, and we know football's a game of momentum, because very early in the game, the Riders' first drive on offense, they got gifted a pass interference penalty, which upon review, if it would have got overturned, come on, Rider Nation, that was not a pass interference call, but it got you down. There was, whether it was a drop or a touch of an overthrow, Keyshawn Johnson has made that catch all year. It could have put the Riders up 7-0. Then, well, at least we're going to settle for a field goal here. We're going to be up 3-0 on the road, scoring points first drive. Let's get it going and keep it going. And then Lothar misses, and you held a lot of field goals for a certain guy. Does your head drop just a little bit when you see that go wide, to be like, oh no? Because you know what the implications are mentally, scoreboard-wise. You know our fan base, Glenn. We're not stable. There's a lot of people that all this hands in the air. It's the first quarter, but for a lot of us, that's it.
Yeah. I heard you guys talk earlier in the show about the locker room and how they may be thinking of this, because those type of things, that does affect the locker room. I mean, you start to have doubt. You start to doubt, does it get to a point where you start to change your play calling because you're not quite sure if Brett's going to hit it and make it? Like if you're going down that road and it's starting to affect your in-game strategy because you're not completely convinced, then it may be time to make a change. And you got young guy in camp. You bring another young guy if you need to. I don't think you make a trade yet. I think you keep Brett on the practice roster or on the injured list if there's room for him there, so that you're not. I've been saying for 3 weeks now, I think Brett's going to work his way out of it. But that one tells me that maybe this is, an issue. And if you're physically getting beat all the time, the coach is going to make a change. The same can be said for if you're mentally struggling. And I don't mean the mental health world. I mean, you've lost confidence. If you've lost confidence and you can't work your way out of it, then the coach is obligated, because he is responsible for the entire team. He has to start thinking about making a change. And I've been on Brett's, I've been on his side for a month now. But we're getting to a point where if you're going to bring someone new in, give him at least 2 or 3 games to settle in, especially if he hasn't played in the league. And, if you're going to stay with Brett, then be prepared that it might come back. He is struggling mentally. I mean, you can't sugarcoat it. That was a chip shot. That was a make it in your sleep kick.
That was less than a convert. That was less than a convert. Because Suits on Sunday, let's say there's no wind, like on Saturday, wind wasn't a factor. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, all they need to do, because of Castillo and the way that Mike O'Shea is an aggressive coach, if they get to the 50 of the Riders, they're kicking that field goal every time. They're never not, because of the confidence that he has. So if all Zach's got to do is just get it to the Riders 50, if the drive stall is there, they're going for 3. Unless for some reason, because we've seen his appetite to be like, my kicker's making these kicks, let's try and take the points. We don't have that in our back pocket on our side like they do. And that's an advantage to the Bombers at the moment, just because of how everything lines up statistically. That take the name Lothar off it. If that was the Rider field goal kicker, but you've seen what Castillo is doing from long range, automatically that's an advantage. If that's a key, one of your keys to the game is, and special teams, field goal kicking for them, checked box.
Yep.
Because they can do it from long range and we can't.
So in that scenario, so let's say you're down by 2, and if it's Winnipeg down by 2, they try that 55-yarder or even 60-yarder, depending on how much wind there is or whatever. O'Shea has no problem doing that. In fact, he was questioned it when Castillo actually missed one.
Yeah.
But he'll do it. And what Corey Mace's options there, based on what we've seen for the last month, he probably goes for it on third down. I mean, you're down by 2, you're at midfield. He goes, I'm not sure if my kicker's going to make it from there. I just don't have the confidence that he will. And he's not going to say that out loud, but it'll be in the back of his mind. And he goes, you know what? Let's go for it on 3rd and 2. That fires up the Bomber defense. It's game over if you don't get that short yardage play. So, I think there is an edge that the Bombers have because they have a confident kicker. And for some reason, Brett has lost his confidence. And, I've been behind him, but at some point, you've got to show the team that if your game drops off and you are becoming extremely inconsistent, that we can't trust you, then we've got to make a change. And if you don't do that with one guy and you do it with other guys, that's when you have an issue in your room.
All right. You are calling the game this Sunday, right? Correct?
I can't wait. I'm back in the saddle. I'm off the fishing boat. I'm off the fishing boat and back in the saddle for Labor Day weekend. The 60th. Unreal.
I know. And tonight they're showing at the Saskatchewan Archives, they're showing footage from the first one in 49, and Rob Vanstone's going to be curating. There's going to be a Q&A. It starts at 7 tonight. Admission's free. You're going to go there to be like, I wanted to know how many Pilsners did they sell back in 49 at the first one? Was anybody wearing a Pilsner cowboy hat made out of a beer box?
Well, I know there was many a story of fans from both the Bombers and fans from the Riders who are trying to find the hotel that the Bombers are staying at and be as loud as they possibly can at 4 a.m. and stuff to try. I remember all those stories. And when I was playing, there were a lot of years that we didn't have a good record going into Labor Day. And I tried to forget those years, but it's hard. And we always seem to play our best game of the regular season on Labor Day. And one of the reasons for that is the crowd comes with such great intensity that it does give you a little more juice as a player. But also the opposition, that's what home field advantage can do. The opposition offense loses the snap count. And that gives your defense a huge advantage because the advantage they have in a home game or in a regular season game on the road where the fans are loud, but they're not crazy. You could still hear Zach calling the signals. He has the snap count, so he knows when the ball's coming back. The defense has to react after the ball moves. That little split second there is crucial in winning and losing a play. On Labor Day, the Bombers will lose the snap count on offense. They won't be able to hear it. They'll have to look, their receivers will have to look down the line and look at the ball move before they can hit the line of scrimmage. So that takes, it makes them a split second behind the play. The defensive line's already, for the Riders, is already getting up the field, and Zach is looking for the receiver who is just now getting out of his break. That all contributes to why Labor Day, it's so hard for the Bombers to win in Saskatchewan on Labor Day.
Well, let's hope we can keep that tradition going. All right, Suits, we're going to wrap it here. And if you have thoughts on Labor Day or a prediction, SaskTel Pick the Score. Predict who wins on Sunday and what the final score ends up being, along with your first and last name. You can text that to 306-936-6262. It's press coverage with Glen Suitor. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more of your calls from the post-game show on the weekend with your thoughts about the Riders. This is the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM. Today, Saskatchewan Roughriders former receiver Joe was waived by the Indianapolis Colts. Now that he is a free agent, he could end up on their practice roster or any other team that chooses to sign him. Same with Canadian quarterback Tyler Elgersma of the Green Bay Packers. He was waived. He is Winnipeg Blue Bomber property if he does come back to the CFL. Some are thinking he could end up in Green Bay. The Raiders have signed wide receiver Amari Cooper. Tonight, if you're a Rider fan and you're just itching to get your Labor Day Classic going early, it's the showing of the first of 60, a classic Labor Day rivalry. The Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame has got together with the Provincial Archives. They have footage from the first official meeting between the Riders and the Bombers from Labor Day in 1949. That'll go tonight, 7 to 9, at the Provincial Archives on Broad Street. And the Jays continue their homestand with the Minnesota Twins. The Jays are up 5 games on the Red Sox and 6 games on the Yankees. We just had Suits on, as we always do every Tuesday and Thursday, and he was talking about Brett Lothar. Now, Suitor's played the game he knows. And football, it's one of those momentum, confidence. If you lose your confidence, sometimes the coach has got to pull the goalie. Sometimes guys take themselves out. Suits is of the same opinion of the 28-yarder in Calgary with normal conditions is a chip shot and very makeable. Is it starting to affect the team? And is it starting to affect the play calling for Mark Mueller and as they go forward? Those are the things that kind of creep in. Now, one of the calls from the postgame show Saturday after the game was Ryan, and he says he's team Brett Lothar all the way. He's sticking with the kicker.
Lothar, I have your back. I've had it last year. I can't continue defending you in all these conversations. And there's so many I've had in the last week about, okay, this guy's done. It's over, blah, blah, blah. No, Lothar's our guy. It really sucks he missed the first one. But like you said, Wes, just a minute ago, like that's not what lost our game. What lost our game is for sure turnovers and impressive turnovers by the defense of Calgary. Some of those, a couple of those, catchable balls, there's the receiver's hands right in there. And then what happens is we tip one, and then we get a turnover, and then boom, another turnover. So I don't know, enough with the Lothar. Like I'm a big fan of his, and I think turnovers were more of a aspect of this game that we don't see often, especially with Harrison, his numbers. So.
Hey, I agree, Ryan. Brett Lothar is not the reason why you lost that football game. There was enough other things going on. But could you imagine if it was, and then they end up losing? Like it would be just an avalanche coming downhill. Like he really wasn't a factor. I don't necessarily know that how many more times they got used, because in the second half, the Riders just completely got shut down. It's okay to have these things if you're winning. That's fine. We're working on it. It's okay. But when it starts to affect and it creeps in, and it hasn't. But at Labor Day, how is this all going to play out? Advantage Bombers. You have a kicker that's kicking them from 60. Even on, because to me, I think that Rene Paredes, who may be more accurate, I think Brett Lothar has a stronger leg. But when they trotted Paredes out there, what was that, a 53, a 54-yarder? And they kicked that, I'm like, okay. All right, maybe I underestimated Rene. He's still got it in him. It's always good when you get the opposing team's fans calling the postgame show. This is John, the Stamps fan, and he was surprised with the outcome of the game on Saturday.
I think Calgary is really quite an incredible team this year. Like they're coming out of left field, out of nowhere, and they beat the Bombers 3 times, twice in a row, and then once on the rematch. They've beaten Saskatchewan twice. They're going to lose to Edmonton. I know they're going to lose to Edmonton down the road. But the BC-Calgary matchup, they're going to be something worth watching, I think, because VA has got a bit of a chip on their shoulder with respect to the Lions. But I don't know what to say about Saskatchewan. I was astonished that they couldn't get any points in the second half. Like, that really blew my mind. And so I don't think Calgary's defense is quite that good. I think it was a question of really a poor line play on the part of the Riders. I don't know that much about their O-line, but they weren't able to do the job, it didn't appear to me, to protect the QB. And but they got some good runs, but
John, the Stamps fan, I'll agree with a bunch of that until you say that their defense isn't all that good. I think at this point they've proved, if the Riders are the best team in the CFL, that they were able to stop the best team in the CFL in a host of ways. And you heard it said from many different people. There was not a lot of crazy, exotic stunts, blitzes, anything. It was straight pressure, sometimes 3-man, and that one hurt the most, sometimes 4-man, and then Dave Dickinson said they put in a 5-man front. They're trying to stop the run and get Trevor Harris off his game or off his rhythm, as Dickinson called it, and he would know. He's a former quarterback. So I agree with you on a lot. I disagree with you on the fact that their defense is not that good. Suit said he thinks they got the best defense in the CFL right now. A bunch of no names, yes, because it doesn't seem there's not a like high price tout. There's no Matthew Betts in the name of Matthew Betts. Big names like that. But just some guys that are showing up at Bob Slowick defense, and they're just doing it. And they're doing it in different ways. So, hey, we love it. If you have something to say about the game, 866-767-0620. Prairie Land Rentals text line is always open, 306-936-6262. We're going to take our final break of the show. We're going to come back. I don't know, maybe Colson and I will talk about the Taylor Swift wedding. Are we getting invited? What do we think of the ring? What kind of buffet? Like, I bet you they don't have decent pierogies and cabbage rolls. I'll tell you that much. I don't care if you're a billionaire. It's not happening here in Sasky. I just guarantee you it's not going to be all that good. We'll do that next. This is SportsCage on 620 CKRM. Top of the third inning, the Toronto Blue Jays leading the Minnesota Twins 3-0. Jays are rolling these days. Sox, 5-ish back. Yankees, 6 back. Nice when the Yankees were taking on the Sox on the weekend. Just keep beating each other up, and we'll just steer clear of that. Final few minutes of the SportsCage on this Tuesday afternoon. It's Maz here. Colson, with this whole Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift engagement announcement earlier today, and some people don't care. And I get it. If you have zero interest, here's the scenario. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you. It happened to me and my wife once. We got invited to a wedding because of the friends of her parents. These people were really, really rich already. The immense amount of pressure to go buy a gift that was way out of the price range which we would normally buy to make it something special or memorable for people that already had everything, that was terrible. She's a billionaire. He's a millionaire. That's a lot of pressure for the average person if you're on the invite list, if you're asking me.
Yeah, I haven't been in that situation. Definitely not billionaire. My parents this last summer got invited to family friends of ours who are very well off in the city. One of their sons was getting married in Hawaii. And so
nice. My
parents were like, we appreciate the invite. We're not exactly sure how we can do this. And the family friends were like, we got you. We'll get you there. Just appreciate the wedding with us and get a nice gift. So yeah, I didn't unfortunately get invited, even though I knew him, but I was like, I'm not too hung up on it at this point.
That's incredibly generous. If, the parents are like, listen, we just want you there. It's a special day. It's family. Like that's a baller move. Mm-hmm. But then on the flip side, what are your parents' first names? Mom, what's your mom's name?
Allison, and dad's Randy.
Allison and Randy. Now the pressure flips to you to be like, okay, now you have to get some sort of exquisite gift because you're being flown to Hawaii. This wedding. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, my dad's fairly well known for getting things the affordable way. He hasn't. I'm putting that nicely. Yeah. He hasn't hadn't had a proper suit in a number of years at that point, and had lost weight since his last one. So he had to go find one. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was from a thrift store for this wedding. So on the one hand, yeah, the pressure's there. At the same time, this family knows my family well enough that they're like, yeah, okay, we'll have you here to appreciate it. And we're expecting you to be like, have some fun and enjoy being there. But gift wise, I don't know what the expectations were, but I'm not going to say that they were expecting high end.
And maybe this is a dinner conversation you're having tonight because you're going to a wedding somewhere this weekend. You're like, okay, well, what are we going to get him for a gift? Because that's always the thing. Like, what are we going to get? What should we get? Are they friends? Is it, if it's a cousin of yours, to like mom and dad still buy the gift? Are you putting your name on the card? Because I know that happens. I mean, that's just not my favorite wedding photo, because this is very Saskatchewan, is the Leon Draisaitl at his wedding wearing the flip-flops because his rental shoes probably hurt, and he's smoking a cigarette. Is Travis Kelce going to be sitting down during it. And does Taylor Swift hire a band, or does she get up there and sing some songs? I don't know.
That is a good question. I would imagine she will have some musical friends there.
Yes.
I don't know how many of them will be participating in singing and what have you. But yeah.
Ugh.
I'm wondering where they're going to do it. Because do you do it in Kansas City? Do you do it in Nashville? Do you do it in Cincy? Or Akron? Where they're just outside of Cleveland was where they were raised. So,
So for anybody that had already reached maximum overload with these two, today has just unleashed a whole new level of, you're probably not going to want to, trust me, watching a Kansas City Chief game, if Tony Romo is on it, you're not going to hate Tony Romo anymore. You're going to hate who they show in the crowd. That's not even going to bother you at all. You're just probably going to have to stop watching Chief football if you can't handle this stuff. So here you go. We wish them nothing but the best, although they did get engaged. They didn't have not set a date. And Suit says
we await our invites in the mail.
Yeah, right. Where Arash was like, it could be a small wedding, a big. I bet you this is going to be like a big 500-person blowout. There's just way too many people. Where you're going to have like probably even Oprah's going to be there. Not that she's relevant anymore. Hey, thanks for everybody that's been on the show today. We appreciate it. Dave Thomas, Charleston Hughes, Arash Madani, and Glen Suitor. If you've missed any part of the show, go back and listen to the podcast on demand, Apple, Spotify, or Amazon, or you can get them all at sportscage.com. And on the show tomorrow, Arash Madani live in studio at Century Studios. And the first guest on the show just after 3 o'clock, starting quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Zach Collaros will join us. That's been the Sports Cage for this Tuesday. It's Maz here. Have a nice night.